Hi, we're Team 4 and we are going to talk to you about some of the most important things that happened throughout the 19th century.
The first and most important events Mexico through the 19th century, which is the independence. This movement started on September 16 of 1810 and it ended in 1821. It's divided in three main stages. The first stage, which was led by Miguel Hidalgo. This was basically like when the revolution started. It was formed by a lot of Creoles and Indians that wanted to free themselves from the Spaniards. The second stage, which was led by Morelos. This stage was basically like organizing and putting an actual military structure, because Hidalgo's movement was like really disorganized and it was more like people just fighting for what they wanted. And so the third stage, led by Guerrero, was a stage where there were like a lot of battles. This was like a resistance stage from the insurgentes to like prove the monarchy that they could resist and they were strong enough to fight against them. And finally the consummation in 1821, which ended with the Plan de Iguala between Guerrero and Iturbide. This ended the War of Independence and Mexico freed themselves from Spain. After the independence in 1821, the first empire happened. Like after the consummation and after the Plan de Iguala and everything, they wanted to decide what type of government Mexico will be ruled by. So they organized a reunion to discuss this. Most of the people wanted a republic, but Iturbide, he crowned himself emperor in July 21st, 1822. This caused like a lot of instability and disagreement between the republic. A lot of people wanted it to be like a democratic republic, but others wanted to continue with the monarchy, in this case the empire. There was a lot of instability in Mexico. There was no money, there was a large debt to be paid, and so Iturbide had like a really weak empire, and what he wanted to do was to unite with other little countries that had just declared their independence through the Act of Union. He wanted to expand his empire from California to Costa Rica. Though this plan was rejected by the Republicans. Then, with the Casamata plan, 1 year later in 1823, Santa Anna finally ended the first Mexican empire through this plan, which knew Iturbide as the emperor of Mexico. Then, along with Nicolas Bravo and Guerrero, they brought back the Congress that Mexico once had, and this helped a lot, and it was something that the Republicans really accepted.
The Constitution of 1824. This happened after the Agustín de Iturbide Empire because people were very angry, and well, they came from an empire and they proclaimed themselves independent, and then Agustín de Iturbide came to be an emperor. So people were angry, and they decided to make like our truth to Agustín de Iturbide, and they declared the constitution by the executive power by Nicolás Bravo, Guadalupe Victoria, and Pedro Celestino Negrete.
Santana ruled several times, but the last time he ruled was in the year 1853, and it was to end up with the disorder, and the conservatives were the ones who created a centralist government, and they chose Santana to be the head of the government. So later that government became a dictatorship, in which Santana claimed to be called Su Alteza Serenísima. He sold to the United States the territory of La Mesilla, and he also collected taxes from windows, cars, and dogs. So all of that stuff were the things that started to make a discontent on the people from Mexico, and they didn't want Santana to rule anymore. The Plan de Ayutla was proclaimed in the year 1854 by Juan Alvarez, who stood up against Santana because he didn't like the way he ruled. So he wanted Santana to leave the power, and that Plan de Ayutla also claimed that there should be a Congress which had to create a constitution. So that was basically what the Plan de Ayutla was about.
Juarez was the governor of Oaxaca in 1847, and in 1854 he created the Ayutla Plan, and when he was a Secretary of Justice he created also the Reforma laws, and 1 year later he was promoted to be the provisional president. In 1861 he was the official president, and when he was a president he did the registro civil, where he wrote that every religion had to be accepted. There were also clergy privileges and etc. Maximiliano de Habsburgo accepted the crown of Mexico, recommended by Napoleon, and in 1864 he arrived to the capital, and a year later he wrote the rules of how the emperor had to rule. And he also created the Paseo de la Reforma, and his liberal ideas were used by Benito Juárez to write the Leyes de Reforma, and he was captured and killed in the year of 1867.
The La Noria Plan was proclaimed by Porfirio Díaz in November 18th of 1871. This was a consequence of Benito Juárez's re-election law. He modified the constitution to let himself be re-elected, and while Republicans, and especially Porfirio Díaz, didn't like this because this wasn't like a really democratic thing. And so this plan was made to take out this law that Juárez had implied in the Constitution. Basically, the Plan de la Noria and the Tuxtepec Plan were like really similar. This was proclaimed also by Porfirio Díaz the January 10th of 1876. This was against Lerdo de Tejada, who was president back then. He wanted to do the same as Juárez, to re-elect himself. Of course, this caused a lot of conflict in the Republic. Well, yeah, the Republic that there was. So Diaz proclaimed this plan to authorize him as president of Mexico, and that's basically everything it was about.
That was during the years 1876 to 1911, that were approximately 30 years. Well, this caused like a lot of discontrol in Mexico. This was the Industrial Revolution for Mexico, because after they had all these wars, many countries already had industrialization. So Porfirio Díaz what wanted was to bring new things, to bring the telegraph, the railroad, and he accomplished it. But he also was a bad president because he forgot to govern for people, and the rich people were becoming richer and the poor people were becoming poorer. So this made a discontrol in Mexico's economy.
In the first industrial revolution, the military production improved. They were better, but the way of working changed. Like when making furniture or clothes, the people who made them used more machines because it was more easy and faster to do the things. Like they were not 100% hand made anymore. And Mexico had less need to import things to other countries because the economy was better. In the second industrial revolution, the changes were not as fast as in other countries. Like the changes were delayed, but one of the most important changes or innovations was that in 1937, Comisión Federal de Electricidad was created or involved now in the government, and that Porfirio Diaz helped the country grew worldwide.
As a conclusion, we're going to tell you how Mexico at the end of the 19th century was economically and democratically. Well, it wasn't that democratic. We weren't a democratic republic because we were under a dictatorship ruled by Porfirio Diaz. The economy, yes, it grew. Porfirio Diaz did a lot of good things. It industrialized Mexico, which was really good, and we were now like a country that exported a lot. We produced a lot of minerals, a lot of things that helped other countries. So we gained money with that, and Mexico's economy grew. In general, the most important events that we talked about, the ones that contributed on democracy, basically was the independence, obviously, the Plan de la Noria, Plan de Ayutla, the Plan de Tuxtepec. It was basically that. Most of the events contributed democracy. The ones that didn't, well, it was like the empire, both empires, and some other ideas, and the conflict between the liberals and the conservatives.